Hello, everyone, and welcome to your Advective Weather Update here for March 22nd, 2023. We have a lot to talk about here, so let's jump right into it. Let's talk about the current weather setup. We're going to be talking about a multi-day possible severe weather episode that could be ongoing across the country, coupled with the flooding. That is also a real possibility here. So right now we have some flood watches stretching all the way from around the Oklahoma City metro, all the way through southern Missouri. That includes Springfield, St. Louis, heading into places like Owensboro, Evansville, heading towards the Indianapolis metro as well. So widespread flood watches currently in place. We have red flag warnings over in Texas as well. So you'll notice there as we head eastward, places like Amarillo within that red flag warning, Santa Fe within some wind advisories as well. And then as we head over to the west there, you'll notice on the west coast, California having some flood watches, winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories. And Los Angeles earlier today, just a brief mention, did have a tornado move through the eastern side of the suburbs. That was quite an unusual event for them, so that was something I felt was worth mentioning. Let's talk about the current weather setup. You'll notice those flood watches here going up shortly. Those are in the yellow. So those just went up, and that's going to be over the next couple of days. We'll go over why soon. You'll notice the area of low pressure there off the coast of California. That's bringing in some rainfall, some snowfall, things like that as well. And you'll also notice there that kind of line of clouds and almost showers and storms stretching with a low pressure system there in Nevada all the way from around Wyoming down south into parts of Arizona, down towards Mexico, Baja California, places like that. So that's what we're looking at right now. And then you'll also notice the thunderstorms there in Indiana. And as we head south, the training storms there in Dixie Alley heading through Tennessee, South Carolina off the East Coast. Let's talk about the next 3 days here in overview. You'll notice there widespread precipitation along the west coast, north to south throughout the entirety of the U.S. west coast. You'll notice there that low pressure system in Wyoming stretching southward with a cold front that is currently located near New Mexico. So that's stretching through places like Santa Fe, Albuquerque. That's already moved through there. And then you'll notice as well near Kansas City we have a stationary front and then a warm front stretching through the St. Louis area down south through places like Birmingham, heading south of Atlanta off the East Coast as well. So that's what we're looking at there with widespread precipitation stretching all the way from the West Coast to the East Coast in kind of a band through the central part of the country. Let's talk about tomorrow. You'll notice there's some heavier snow in the Rockies on the northern side of the western coast. California starting to get a bit of a break. Severe weather is a possibility there within the yellow region, flash flooding within the red region. Again, we'll go over that in more detail soon with wintry precipitation in the northeast as well. And as we head into 3 days out, widespread flooding and severe thunderstorms are already expected. We'll be talking about what those impacts look like exactly, but that's looking fairly serious right now. So we're going to be talking about that in some detail here relatively soon, but lots to talk about. Lots of dangerous weather is coming up. So we'll be live for this, making more videos for it as it does approach, as this is looking like it could be a rather serious situation. So let's get into an overview now for what is expected with this severe weather outbreak. This is going to be a multi-day severe weather episode starting today, lasting through Friday. So today we have that 1 out of 5 marginal risk stretching all the way from near Kansas City in through the Indianapolis area, stretching towards Ohio, and that is going to be mostly a large hail threat. So that's what we're looking at there. We're also going to see tomorrow a slight risk, level 2 out of 5, for very large hail, strong winds, and a tornado or two. Very large hail being defined as hail greater than 2 inches or so in diameter. So we could see some baseballs falling from the sky tomorrow with some stronger thunderstorms. And then finally there on Friday, we have that enhanced risk, level 3 out of 5, stretching through central Louisiana into western Mississippi and southeastern Arkansas, that being for damaging winds, large hail, and the possibility of a few large tornadoes, that already being explicitly mentioned by the Storm Prediction Center, the strong tornadoes being a possibility. In Jackson, Mississippi, you're the big city here within the risk as well. So be sure that you're watching out for that. Stay weather aware if you're within severe weather risks today, tomorrow, or Friday. We'll be going into more detail soon. I also do just want to say, and I'm going to be a bit strong with my wording today, that there are signs of a classic spring tornado outbreak materializing on Friday. Now, trends still need to be monitored. This is no guarantee. There are some things that could cause this to not be that big of a day. However, as of now, the large-scale ingredients are definitely there for this to be a big day. We'll have to see if the small-scale ingredients line up as well. Please remain weather aware. We'll have more updates as time goes on. Let's get into more detail with today. That slight risk stretching from central Missouri there. It's places like Columbia up to around Awatuma in Iowa there, so south of Des Moines, stretching through Illinois. So Bloomington, Galesburg, Ottawa, Davenport, all within that marginal risk, stretching into Indiana. So Lafayette, Fort Wayne, Indianapolis, all within that marginal risk for severe thunderstorms. That is exclusively for large hail today. That's a level 1 out of 5. So not a huge risk, but a risk nonetheless. So strong winds, tornadoes, those look very unlikely, but the possibility of some large hail is definitely there. We have sufficient destabilization or lifting of the air today, so we could most certainly see some larger hail. It's going to be very isolated, not particularly widespread, but make sure if you're within that marginal risk, you are weather aware, because the odds that a stronger storm or two occurs within this area are pretty high. Again, just coverage will not be overly widespread. As we head into the weather model for tonight, you'll notice here rather clearly there's our storms. So this is going to be around 8 p.m. Central. 9 p.m. Central, we have our storms beginning to bubble up. And you'll notice there that lone cell in northern Missouri. So you'll notice just some pop-up storms there in Illinois, Missouri, things like that. These are kind of like your classic spring showers and thunderstorms. And again, these could contain some severe hail, that being greater than 1 inch or so in diameter. As we head here to later in the morning, this is around 5 a.m., 6 a.m. As we head to 7 a.m., you'll notice here that we are nowhere near to the severity that we were at the beginning of the forecast period. So that's what we're looking at there in terms of model data. Not too much going on, but again, some storms are going to track through northern Missouri, through Illinois in that marginal risk area, and that's generally going to begin into the evening and overnight hours. And then as those move through, they're going to peak in intensity as we head towards midnight 1, 2 a.m. Before things do begin to fizzle out a bit. Again, those stronger storms definitely a possibility within the entirety of that marginal risk area. That is the case for a reason. All right, let's get into what's going on tomorrow, Thursday. We have a slight risk of severe weather stretching all the way from near Del Rio and up north towards Wichita Falls, Oklahoma City, McAllister, etc. This is what the Storm Prediction Center is saying. Isolated damaging wind gusts are a possibility with these. A couple of tornadoes are also possible with scattered hail, some, again, up to 2 inches or greater in diameter. That's baseballs falling from the sky. The big cities, Dallas-Fort Worth, Oklahoma City, and Tulsa, being the ones that the Storm Prediction Center explicitly notes being within the risk. So that's what we're seeing there, that marginal risk stretching around that all the way from near, again, Del Rio, Brunette, Kerrville, Austin, just south of that marginal risk, and then that stretches north. So if you're near Enid, south of Enid, there in Oklahoma, if you're in Joplin, Springfield, Rolla, Jefferson City, Columbia, St. Louis, you're within that marginal risk. That stretches all the way to near Peoria, Decatur, Effingham, Springfield. It's just south of Springfield, there in Illinois as well. So lots of stuff to talk about there for sure. Springfield well within that marginal risk for severe weather there. So let's talk about this in more detail. Here it is. This is the primary risk tomorrow. Large hail. Now, you have that level 2 out of 5 in the yellow there. That's a slight risk. This is where scattered storm coverage is. There are going to be a lot of places within that slight risk that get large hail tomorrow. Level 1 out of 5 surrounding that. It's going to be pretty isolated, but still you want to remain weather aware. Now, that black hatched region, that's where the possibility of 2-inch hail or greater is currently present. So make sure that you're weather aware, especially if within that area, as that's where things like car damage, property damage are most likely. So stay weather aware for that. The Weather Service is going to do a pretty good job, as they always do, of warning those storms. So you'll know in advance when a storm like that's coming, but make sure that you're weather aware tomorrow so you get that 30 to 45 minute heads up when a storm is approaching you. Let's talk about the wind threat. This is a level 1 out of 5, stretching from Tulsa south to near San Angelo, San Antonio, the Texas-Mexico border there. But that's generally speaking not going to be a huge deal. Again, the hail is the biggest threat within this region. Again, though, that wind threat is non-zero, and again, that's going to be winds greater than 60 miles per hour or so that are a possibility with any thunderstorm that does form within that region. Again, though, it's a relatively low threat, hail being the primary threat. And then that tornado threat, it is small but non-zero. That includes the southern Oklahoma City metro, so that's Norman, Moore, places like that, stretching all the way down into Texas, so places like Wichita Falls, also within that severe weather risk there along the Red River, stretching from near Vernon to Denison. So that's what we're looking at right now in terms of the tornado threat tomorrow. Minimal but non-zero, some isolated tornadoes possible within that level 1 out of 5 risk. That is a 2% chance of a tornado forming within 25 miles of any point in there. Here is a second opinion from a weather model here. Now, this is not as good as the Storm Prediction Center. This is not to be taken verbatim. This is not to be taken as some sort of sign that things are going to go differently. This is just to give you an idea of how much confidence there is. The more similar this is to the Storm Prediction Center, the better. Now, you'll notice it does stretch that marginal risk closer into Ohio. So if you're in Ohio, again, non-zero risk of severe storms. Some models are indicating that too, but I think the Storm Prediction Center has a good grasp on this. That tornado threat, I think it's definitely overblowing it. And I think you can say the same thing there when it comes to that wind threat in Ohio. But again, you can see hail there. One of the bigger threats with this. So again, the generally similar setup, showing some confidence in the severe weather forecast from the Storm Prediction Center. Let's talk about now a weather model. This is the high resolution rapid refresh, the one we showed before, and this is going to give us a good idea of what happens throughout the entirety of the forecast period tomorrow. So this is around 10, 11 o'clock noon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you'll notice some storms start to bubble up. So here we are, 4 p.m., and we start to have some of those storms bubbling up in Oklahoma. These are going to be some of our bigger hailers. As we head in towards 8 p.m., you'll notice some more storms firing behind that. Again, those are our big-time hailers. So those are going to be dropping those baseballs out of the sky there. And again, more of those firing, kind of training in the same area. All of these are going to have a risk for the potential of some pretty large hail. And then our main event, our main line begins to fire here in the overnight hours, 3, 4, 5 a.m. And that's going to move again through Wichita Falls, Dallas, Fort Worth, areas like that along the Red River, where our small risk for tornadoes is Oklahoma City. And then that begins to move into Arkansas, where we talk about Friday's threat. Now, this is Friday. We have an enhanced risk of severe thunderstorms currently in place there. It's a level 3 out of 5. It's rather dangerous, and it is no joke. It's there for a reason. So that includes places like Jackson, Mississippi, Alexandria, Monroe in Louisiana. We have Greenville, Clarksdale there in Mississippi, El Dorado, Pine Bluff in Arkansas, pretty close to this as well. Little Rock, Memphis, Birmingham, Huntsville, and Tupelo, all within that slight risk, that level 2 out of 5. Again, that enhanced risk, level 3 out of 5, Jackson, Alexandria, Monroe, Greenville, Clarksville, Pine Bluff, El Dorado. Nashville, Paducah, also within that level 2 out of 5, and then a level 1 out of 5 surrounding that. That includes Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, New Orleans, Mobile, Montgomery. Pretty close to Atlanta. If you're in Atlanta, I'd be watching out just in case. Louisville as well. So a rather widespread severe weather episode is expected on Friday, and this could be rather significant. So this is something that you definitely want to be weather aware on, especially if within the level 2 or the level 3, and I would not be shocked to see a level 4 introduced as time goes on here. That's a moderate risk, but currently we have an enhanced risk. So that means numerous severe thunderstorms are likely within that orange region, that enhanced risk region. Scattered severe thunderstorms in the slight risk, isolated severe thunderstorms in the marginal risk, and some of those could be strong. This black hatched region indicating where strong storms are expected. These aren't just going to be your run-of-the-mill springtime storms with that severe thunderstorm warning. These are going to be the ones that can produce that very large hail greater than 2 inches in diameter, those winds greater than hurricane force, 75 miles per hour, and those EF2 plus tornadoes. So Lake Charles, Shreveport, Jackson, Alexandria, again, if you're in that enhanced risk, that's going to be your red region there, or within your level 2 to the south and west, especially within the state of Louisiana. You need to be watching out as strong thunderstorms are expected. They could be particularly intense. All right, let's talk about analogs. This is something on the more experimental side, so this isn't something to take verbatim. This isn't something to take as some sort of set-in-stone thing. This just gives us an idea of how much confidence there is. You'll notice the best analog for this, or the best thing to compare this to, according to this kind of machine learning model, courtesy of the University St. Louis, so SLU, it is the Super Tuesday outbreak back in 2008. Now, that's no joke. It was a big-time outbreak. Will this be as bad as that? We don't know. Honestly, probably not. But it does indicate there, especially with some of those others that have that pink lighting up there, that's where we had high amounts of severe weather. In some of these analogs, you'll notice a lot of things lighting up. You'll also notice, though, sometimes that there isn't much lighting up. So you'll notice places saying things like March 3rd, 1988, not much happened that day. February 9th, 1994, not much happened that day. So there's a possibility that not too much ends up happening. But again, there's that really high-end possibility as well of some pretty serious severe weather going on. So don't take this verbatim. This is not a forecast even. This is just giving you an idea of the range of possibilities from the past that look somewhat similar to this setup. Let's get a second opinion from our weather model. You'll notice there the yellow and reds there, the yellow in the tornado outlook and the red in the wind outlook, pretty similarly placed, a bit farther westward than the placement from the Storm Prediction Center, but very similar there. That level 3 out of 5 for tornadoes and wind, which is pretty similar to the wording from the Storm Prediction Center. Level 2 for hail, according to this model. However, we won't have specific hazards from the Storm Prediction Center until tomorrow. But this gives us some confidence that what the Storm Prediction Center is saying looks to be fairly accurate right now, as the models also agree. All right, let's talk about the weather models in more detail now. This is what's going to happen on Friday. So as we head into the overnight hours, that's when those storms really fire. So this is going to be an overnight event for the places of worst weather. But you'll notice there are thunderstorms throughout the entirety of the period. This is going to be from around 7 a.m. Central on Friday to 7 a.m. on Saturday. And you'll notice there storms move through Dallas-Fort Worth, heading to Little Rock, places south there like Shreveport, Alexandria, New Orleans, and then head into Jackson, Tupelo in the overnight hours, Birmingham as well. And some of those are going to be more isolated, could be more tornadic. So we'll see what ends up happening there. Lots of uncertainty. We'll have a higher resolution model for you in tomorrow's video, but this is just the general idea of what we're seeing right now. All right, well, let's talk about what you can do. First of all, know the difference between a thunderstorm watch and a thunderstorm warning, as well as a tornado watch and a tornado warning. You need to start preparing if within a tornado watch or a severe thunderstorm watch, either tomorrow or Friday, for severe weather. So that means just make sure that you're going over your severe weather safe place plan, make sure you have multiple ways to get weather alerts, and be sure to know how to act as quickly as possible if you're within a severe thunderstorm or tornado warning. If you're within a warning, that means that the phenomena that we're talking about is imminent or already happening. That means a tornado is about to touch down or has, or that means that you have strong winds, large hail right on your doorstep. So you need to make sure that you're acting at that point, you're executing that plan that you were told to get together during the watch. Let's talk about those sheltering guidelines. This can help you for a plan. So you don't want to be in a mobile home, you don't want to be in vehicles, you don't want to be underneath a highway overpass. All of those are death traps. Mobile homes and vehicles have lots of debris that can cut you up and kill you. You have underneath a highway and overpass, the wind's getting funneled there. So you have a lot of lift there that can lift you up with the overpass if it does break. And even under that, again, the winds are even stronger, so debris will hit you even harder. Bad options are large open rooms and manufactured housing, as well as things like buildings with lots of windows. You don't want to be around windows. Good options are an interior room of a well-constructed building at the lowest level, preferably a basement. And the best options, again, that's going to be like your storm cellar, storm shelter. If you know someone with that, or if you have one, that's great. But if you don't, again, lowest level, sturdy building, interior room, that's the standard course of action. When it comes to severe weather preparation, here it is during nighttime. This is going to be an overnight event. Make sure that you have multiple ways to get weather alerts. That's through your wireless emergency alerts, weather apps, mobile.weather.gov, texting and mail service, social media, family and friends. You also need to make sure, if you can, to get a NOAA weather radio. That's a big deal as well. And then when that also is occurring, charge your cell phone. Be sure to do that. Again, having multiple ways to get warnings, that's a crucial thing throughout this severe weather event, as that's going to be life-saving to you, especially in the overnight hours when the worst of the Friday event is expected to occur. Let's briefly talk about the flooding threat here. This is also pretty big, so places are going to be in flash flooding risks as well, numerous places actually. We're going to be seeing a moderate risk of flash flooding both tomorrow and Friday. So let's talk about that some. Oklahoma City in a marginal risk, but places like Tulsa within that slight risk tomorrow. The big cities there, Fayetteville, Arkansas, and Springfield, Missouri within that moderate risk tomorrow, with downtown St. Louis, Columbia, Jefferson City in a slight risk, Springfield in a marginal risk, and Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Louisville in Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, all within slight risks as well. Marginal risk for Columbus, Ohio, as we head into tomorrow. So marginal risk, that means a low risk, but a non-zero risk of some flash flooding. Slight risk means scattered flash flooding is expected. Moderate risk means that there's going to be numerous reports of flash flooding occurring. Would not be shocked to see a high risk upgrade, especially on Friday, which would be catastrophic flooding being likely within the region. So we'll talk about that more here right now. So here's what's going on Friday. We have a significant flash flooding threat, that moderate risk there, level 3 out of 4, stretching all the way from Columbus to Jonesboro, Arkansas. So the Boot Heel of Missouri's in that, Cape Girardeau, places like that. Carbondale, also within that there in Illinois, Evansville, Louisville, Radcliffe, Cincinnati, all within a moderate risk for flash flooding tomorrow. St. Louis, Indianapolis in the slight risk, so is Pittsburgh, Little Rock, Tupelo, Huntsville, those in Mississippi and Alabama respectively, as well as Nashville, Tennessee, all within that slight risk there, and the marginal risk there for places like Jackson, Mississippi, Montgomery, Alabama, Atlanta, Georgia, as well as Shreveport, Louisiana. So big-time flooding and severe weather threats a possibility. Some areas could get over 8 inches of rain from this event as it does move through Friday. All right, let's talk about what you can do there in a flood watch, flood warning kind of thing. So flooding is possible if you are in a flood watch. That means that you need to be preparing to take action. Make sure that you're staying tuned to trusted sources and you know how to act fast. Flood warning, similar to those severe weather warnings. That means the phenomena is imminent or happening. You need to take action. So that's going to be getting to higher ground. That's going to be making sure that you aren't driving into water and you're staying informed. That's very important. Moving important documents to good places is good as well. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was useful. If you have any additional questions, comments, concerns, leave them in the comments below. You can also join our Discord server in the link below where we'll be talking about the severe weather threat coming up, and you can have discussions with myself and the rest of the team. Thank you so much for watching. We'll have another video on this tomorrow.